Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Be Well reading series. I'm your host for the evening, Nicole Tallman, and we are joined today by two amazing poets. We have Tommy Wyatt Blake and we have Raye Hendrix, and we are celebrating survival tonight, which is a really important thing. There's a lot going on in our world. And I think that we all have different issues and different opportunities to come together to be able to celebrate our existence and being able to make it in such a challenging environment. So we have two featured poets who've written some amazing books that explore various topics, and we'll let their books speak for themselves. Before we get started, I am going to ask respectfully if everyone mutes themselves just for the purposes of being able to hear our poets clearly. And we are recording this event so that people can watch it later and they can hear clear audio. And also, we have a chat feature here. So if you have questions or comments for the poets, you can feel free to drop those into the chat and we'll do a short Q&A at the end. I'm also going to be putting links to our poets' latest books in the chat, and I encourage everyone who has the means to please purchase or order a copy for your library. If you don't have the means to purchase one yourself, that's a really great way to support poets too, and I think it's always appreciated. So I will introduce our first reader for the evening, which is Tommy Wyatt Blake. And Tommy lives with his boyfriend and their fiendishly goofy cats. And Tommy's poetry can be found in Fatal Flaw, Many Worlds, Mayday, Passengers Press, Fifth Wheel Press, Miniskirt Magazine, and others. They are the author of Ditch Laps / Really Afraid, Now That's What I Call Horror, So Who's Courage, Trick Mirror or Your Computer Screen, and many others, which is really amazing. Let's give Tommy a very warm welcome and round of applause.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. I'm going to be reading from my latest title, which is a two-in-one title with Corinthia Press. The first part is a chapbook titled Ditch Laps, which explores dissociation through the liminal spaces of TikTok and infomercials. And the second part of the book is a full length collection titled Really Afraid, which is experimental and explores the origins of self and survival. So I'm going to start off by reading some from Ditch Laps. The first one is titled Do Not Resuscitate, and it was published in Bullshit Lit. Clawing out of a coffin, bare knuckled, haze of insulation pink, body pockmarked with wounds, tripping trypophobia, blood fluxing from jellied and friable tissue, materials mucked up for architectural disaster. How it's a design flaw. The graveyard misting sawdust as I ply my hands through the fresh slab of dirt. What if we consider the cemetery to be a rigged claw machine instead? How everything is supposed to be glazed over in feral and pungent yellow light, how it gives tangible static as a migraine, ribbed with chrome cold. The illusion is how it makes me feel alive when I'm chosen with shing certainty by someone else's hand. And I just have to ask, why do I keep coming back? Oh, thank you. And the next poem I'm going to read is titled Triangulation, sorry. Um, Rain gouging sockets with bright cerulean, chemically induced tunnel vision. My eyes like skies. The body watches you tend to these wounds with glittering gossamer, how it expands like the spaghettification of static. Why claim this moment is lagging to the next when we've been past this already? I glitch out, memory compressed to corrupt. But you see me throbbing with gelatinous rain, clouds pumice to cerebral blue. I know you fetishize crying by demanding me to stop, how I loosen to mist, how pounding it pours from the skull of sky. Oh, thank you. And next poem I'm going to read was published in Fifth Wheel Press blog, and it's titled, Is This Analog Horror or Another Nightmare? When I move my body, it's not even mine, just data on a terminal in the form of me. choosing to explore a ruby-pocked metal staircase in the dirt-bruised woods. Its spiral twinkling pink-green phosphorus, a neon corrosive to dead pixels pipeline, right? All things end sometimes when the wiring is fried. Simulations running an image on an image of me, climbing these stairs that reach to the oblivion of sky, emptying its color before it rains, before the almost existence of mist is too contaminating, and the game restarts to Vanta black blank, reflective in its nature. There aren't any choices left in the coding. Really, there's nothing at all, and I need to sit with that for a moment. Thank you. And the next poem I'm reading is titled Gestures Broadly at Everything. So blank stricken, so bored now, absorbed by a glitzing aura in quartz pink, pinching my skin so I don't blink, all in the consequence of need to exist on the other end, to be more ghost than person, paralysis kissed and ethereal. Let me be nowhere, touched by sleep. Let me close my eyes just this once. Thank you. And I have just two more poems left that I'm going to read from Ditch Laps, and then I'm going to pivot into Really Afraid. The next one I'm reading is titled I Really Wish I Could Cry Right Now. Somewhere there are negatives of me possessed by sleep paralysis. My legs bent over the edge of the bed, star-pocked mattress exposed by flash. I'm dreaming about falling, and I don't know why. I'm dreaming to pass the time. I'm dreaming in endless cyan crash skies, how there's nothing I can do but see how each image triples with apparitions, how my body is thrice posed, now with angelic proportions. So many legs, it looks I've learned how to run. And thank you. And the last poem I'm reading from Ditch Laps was published in Fatal Flaw, and it's titled Tommy's Room as a TikTok Live. TikTok Live as a simulated wasteland of longing. The fake background breaking to spirals of woozy purplish blue. I turn over in my sleep, pixels of exposed breast crashing into frame as the rasp in your voice winds to a scratchy minor C, asking, can I live rent-free in your mind? The audio distortion is dreamified as arms suffused with screen-bright warmth, their tactile static shaking me into the oblivion of my phone, where light pulls an astral ghost out of me. Your comments read, is that your bed? Are you all alone in that room? Can I see you soon? See more of you? You're my top viewer, my only viewer, really, and you want me to be perfect for you, even as I short circuit out of vision. You speak again. I do now, if I don't already. My body stirruped and bare splayed in a way you could digitally erase the crinkly purple top sheet and anything else on me, anything you want. So those are all from Ditch Laps. And now I'm going to move into the poems in Really Afraid. And each section is kind of its own like concept in a way, but they all go together. So it kind of seems like each one of them is its own micro chapbook in the book at first. And the first one that I'm reading is from the second section, and it's titled Who's Afraid of Feelings Anyway? Once more with. You hoarse your throat out because you're breathing in specks of light and frightened spit until you experience attic chest. Yes, that annoying metaphor teen poets obsess over and throw in their poems because they think it's pretty because they really need it to be. So how are you 25 going on 26, needy to the point of dependence because your parents failed you? So needy that you feel full of dust and russet light again and again, that attic chest acting up all the way home. to when you cry, and Peanut crying with you. And who's the true courage anyway? Who's afraid of the unknown and the known? It's a attic chest, like a attic in a house. Thank you. Sorry, I just caught that. And I also forgot to mention that poem references my cat Peanut. Um, but the next one I'm going to read is titled "Remember When You Picked Out Your Grandma's Coffin." What is the point of looking into a glass table, crashing your head through an artificial body that looks like you, or holographic shards of you? Slobber pills from your mouth as you spin out of yourself. Where are you now? Enshrouded by forsythia, their fake wet petals make you question everything at 8 years old. You're losing the point again. This isn't why you've populated in a galvanized gray room, why you can feel the sting of the steel beams in your hands. Stagger your breath for this unless you want to soak in your fears and ugly cry for real this time as you smell the faint, fresh cut bleeding heart flowers you called from your grandma's garden. You asked why those flowers, pulling their sinewy wet from stem. She said they remind you of her, and you don't know what it means because you're only 8. So you think really hard about this now and wonder about her favorite color. Why is everything so disgustingly gray and gaunt and liminal? Why are you questioning the wrong things again? Look, you're only permitted to choose. Make an executive decision at the table. Sign your name below. So you pick something pink. Good girl, you hear, prompting you to ask again, prompting you to ask, can I pick out her dress too?
Tommy, I think you lost audio. I'm not hearing you. Is it just me? Tommy, we can't hear you.
I can't hear him either.
We can't hear your audio, Tommy. Can you hear me? I'm gonna go to the chat. It's okay. We'll work it out. Don't worry. I'll put it in the chat. I was gonna say, maybe try without the headphones. If not, we can always go to Ray and circle back if you need a minute to.
Oh, sorry about that. I just
Oh.
took my headset out. I think it died.
Oh,
And
okay.
it didn't give me a warning beep this time. So sorry about that. Did I leave off on the How to Fish poem? Is that where it cut out or did it cut out sooner?
Yeah, I didn't hear any of the last poem that you just read.
Okay. Okay. I'll just reread the last poem. Does that sound good? Okay. All right. Thank you. And that was titled, Remember When You Picked Out Your Grandma's Coffin? What is the point of looking into a glass table, crashing your head through an artificial body that looks like you, or holographic shards of you? Slobber pills from your mouth as you spin out of yourself. Where are you now? Enshrouded by forsythia, their fake wet petals make you question everything at 8 years old. You're losing the point again. This isn't why you've populated in a galvanized gray room, why you can feel the sting of the steel beams in your hands. Stagger your breath for this, unless you want to soak in your fears, an ugly cry for real this time, as you smell the faint, fresh cut, bleeding heart flowers you called from your grandma's garden. You asked why those flowers, pulling their sinewy wet from stem. She said they remind you of her, or remind her of you, and you don't know what it means because you're only 8, so you think really hard about this now and wonder about her favorite color. Why is everything so disgustingly gray and gaunt and liminal? Why are you questioning the wrong things again? Look, you're only permitted to choose. Make an executive decision at the table. Sign your name below. So you pick something pink. Good girl, you hear, prompting you to ask, can I pick out her dress too? The next one I'm going to read, I just have a couple more after this one. And this is titled How to Fish / How to Feel Fantastic. You're freezing so hard you feel wet. Rubbing the muscle of your pruned fingers together, even harder you produce a mist. Look at you now, collecting pics of your body's muck rain in a bucket. Now say it with your chest. Luck has nothing to do with this. Seriously, please don't breathe so abruptly. The cold will crisp cut pieces out of you and you will not notice. It's all in the wrist. Loosen your cast and the fish will come to you, is what you've been told all these years, when really auto-tuned bubbles press in your ears, bursting backwards with song designed for non-human consumption. Your chest crushed by congealed cold, fluid drumming in the throat. And one of the last two poems I'm reading, this is in the form of Adult Swim bumpers. And I don't have it in, oh yeah, this is the one I have it in, where there was an Adult Swim bumper that said the dawn is your enemy. So I use that as the complete background of the poem, and it's overlaid on the poem itself, or behind the poem itself. And it's titled, Do You Wish to Know What You Are Looking For? The night cloaks you because you asked it to. Fine, does it help to say it takes requests like an open mic? It'll probe you all the same if you wear that chrome bunny suit. It knows you like the ghost of something that existed before and will exist again. Maybe it's not a ghost at all, and time is what sits too heavy in the throat. Come on, come out of there. You can't hide behind the series of statistically improbable events. A metal craft piercing your body with its shiny silver spokes, or a birthday that doesn't pass in a ghoulish gray cloud with swooning strobe light so late or so early. With what's really happening, the stoking of fear and love with a drugged green gradient. What about this stuff makes you think you're such a bad person? That you should die like Donnie Darko? You know they'll all say, I feel bad for his family. And the last one I had is titled The Future as an Omen. See the cat hiding under the bed, feeble sharpening as this predator in the distance mimics her human's voice better than she can chirp trick her way to birds. The way the air wrinkles cries and dissolves them in rain. It's the same as the kid from Skinamarink glowering at the pupil pitch darkness under her mother's bed, with nothing but the abyss staring back, and a voice cutting through the fugue with, you know we love you very much. And how much do you blame yourself now for perceived survival, even as you puke it out, even as it possesses you? Sorry, possession is too heavy a charge? It's 2023, you know. Yellow Jackets is doing it, and like you're saying you don't have a nega persona that shovels dirt down your throat, but you do have religious documentaries. Sorry. In The Exorcist flickering on a bubble edge screen from 2003. Your dad saying channel surfing was static between to prove, and things you dissociate through to survive. You know, the thing you said was almost fainting. I'm sorry. When your parents collectively asked, what was the matter with you? Why weren't you listening? You know that you were doom moding before you could ever form a solid identity. And the charge of possession means you can claim whatever until your voice breaks. Everything that makes you strange intensifies like the potential pain from a sun-harnessed magnifying glass. As your vision lapses time, as in rewind, you can walk to Blockbuster. It's okay. It's 2003. You can return the tape now. You'd want to return the tape now. Can you imagine the fees if you blink and suddenly it's 2023? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tommy. That was amazing. So amazing always to hear your work, and especially out loud today. So appreciate your time and your poetry. Our next and final reader for the evening is Raye Hendrix, and Raye is a writer from Alabama. Her debut poetry collection, What Good Is Heaven, is out now from Texas Review Press in their Southern Poetry Breakthrough Series. Raye is the author of 2 chapbooks and the winner of the Keene Prize for Literature and the Patricia, is it Akis or Akis? Help me with that one, Raye. We're not sure. Thank you, Patricia, for awarding Raye this award. Raye's work appears in American Poetry Review, Poetry Northwest, 32 Poems, Blue Mountain Review, Birmingham Poetry Review, and elsewhere. And Raye holds a PhD from the University of Oregon, where she received fellowships and awards for her work on disability poetics. And you can find out more about Raye at rayehendrix.com. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Raye Hendrix.
Hi, hey y'all. Thank you. Yeah, I think I've always said Patricia Aukus, but I'm not sure. Ron at SIU would probably know if anyone's curious, but yeah. Anyway, thank you for inviting me to be here. This is really fun. This is beautiful. Tommy's work is beautiful. I've followed Tommy and Peanut's work for a long time. Peanut the cat, big cat fan. So it's really great to get to read with them. And really cool to like be able to read from my book, which is like, it feels really strange. I think it's a great theme for tonight, the survival theme. So I'm just gonna get started with like a small trigger warning, I guess. That or maybe content warning that I grew up in North Alabama in farm country, and this book is set there, and it's kind of about queerness in that space. But it also there's a lot of like animal death. So I just wanted to throw that out there in case anyone is sensitive to that. Okay, yeah, I don't know why I just suddenly got so nervous. While Tommy was reading, I knocked my lamp off my table, if you saw me make a face. And I don't know where it is. It's just behind the desk now. So if it gets really dark, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna start just, I think, with the poem's opening book called Morning Song, and it is after Bridget Pegeen Kelly. So, Morning Song. Listen, the rooster crows his throaty grief to the sunrise, wakes the valley with his undulating dirge. Today, the farmer takes the eldest of the rooster's wives for the hen culling, her age a plague of need. No use wasting good seed on the eggless, no use feeding the crone with her cavernous womb, her living hunger inconvenient. The farmer bears her to her guillotine, a nail-pronged stump behind the coop. The nails hold her head in place while the farmer holds her body still, pulls to stretch her feathered neck long and clean for the slicing. Soon her keening populates the dawn. Banshee shrieks so spectral, even the cicadas hush their humming. Even the coyotes cease to sorrow their howls. Then the punctuating thump of hatchet. Then the sudden gurgled stop. Then silence, bone-white silence. The whole valley chokes on this silence. All except the barn cat, who has been watching the old hen wane in secret, been waiting weeks for the farmer to find her dreary nest. No, the cat does not suffer this silence. He hurries to beat the ants and horseflies to the slaughter, creeps from hiding to gnaw the lonesome head. Listen closely. In this silence, you can almost hear his patient teeth. I think that's the most gruesome one. So just get it out of the way at the beginning. Thank you so much. I tried to like pick some poems and now I'm forgetting like what I picked. Because I'm not used to seeing them in book form. Just wild. Okay, this one's also a sad animal poem. But this was almost the title of the book, and then we last minute pivoted. So this is called Blood in the Milk. The calf slipped from her body like a receding wave, breathless, limp, landed soft and heavy in the dew-wet grass, the way a stone might after rolling slowly down a hill. A 9-month anticlimax, and if cows can mourn, its mother did. Wouldn't let us close enough to milk for days. Pink udder distending, swelling as if in place of empty womb. She wasn't mine, belonged to the old farmer who lived a mile around the bend, nestled in our shared bosom of hills. But I loved her as if she was, and the farmer let me, gave me a key to his barn, let my girlhood smell of shit and seed and hay. I walked there every day, freckles blooming like cow spots on my cheeks in the early heat of April. And maybe that's why she finally let me close. My body not much larger than her would-be calf's, arms and legs twiggy, pigtails like low red ears, my breed a mother's aggrieved mistake for bovine. The farmer gave me milking stool and bucket, showed me how to work my hands, slow as springtime, gentle as a suckling mouth. I pulled, and when I did, she looked me in the eye. It's that poem. Thank you. Okay, I've got one more sad animal poem. Just get them all out of the way at first, and then we'll move on to something happier. Maybe don't like read this book in front of, like, out loud to your animals. Like that might hurt their feelings. Okay, this poem is called Animal Instinct, and it features my dog, Spunky, who was a great dog. R.I.P. Spunky. Animal Instinct. Walking with my dog and father through the woods, when animal detected animal, slightest rustling in the forest floor, an infant squirrel's squeaks sharp as a dog whistle, pitched almost too high for human ears. Fallen from its piney dray, eyes still sealed with birth, I jerked the leash of my dog to keep the creature from his maw. My father said to leave it to die quickly, let the dog have his merciful doggy way. I didn't, made a leaf into a litter and bore the squirrel home in my palm, where it died a long, slow death over days in the rust of a long dead hamster's cage. How to understand that even care can be misplaced, excessed, can make of you a monster. How to know when kindness means crush instead of heal. Thank you. I'm going to skip that sad animal poem and move on to a different one. I'll try and get some with some people in it now. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. I will do, it's finally football season. I'm a big football fan, so I'm gonna read a poem about football, kind of. Particularly high school football. This poem is called Friday Night Lights. Day disappears behind the ridge. The golden hour is full of smoke from tailgates, stolen cigarettes, fathers lighting charcoal grills in the parking lot behind the school. Their sons, long boys with longer shadows, march from locker room to field, cleats crunching the gravel path like discordant drums of war, child soldiers swallowed by shoulder pads, chewing mouth guards like tobacco, slurring words they're too young to use, at cheerleaders too young to know why it makes them tug at the hems of their skirts, use their pom-poms to shield their adolescent thighs. They are learning to be women from the boys who are learning to be men by learning how to take a hit or hit harder than their fathers. The whistle blows, bodies collide, the whole town begins to scream. It's not a very uplifting book. Okay. I think I'll read. Am I good on time so far? Like 3 more?
You have plenty of time. Take
Oh
whatever.
goodness. Okay.
Good.
Maybe I will go back and read the other sad animal poem then. Why not? Just let y'all test them out for me. This one, so yeah, I'm gonna do it since I have time. This one was recently published in 7th Wave, which is a great magazine, and if you don't know them, you should go in and hang out with them and send them work. love them. Emily Menzel, her book is coming out next week too. She's one of the editors there, just shouting it out. Okay, this poem is called Skinning the Fox. Still dark out when my father pulls the trigger. The air rings like a bell after the gunshot, as if purified by sound. Only Enoch and Elijah got to leave this world alive, he tells me, hours later. Large hands shaving skin from pink meat. The fox, its body strung between us, rope cinched around a slender foot. The body sways as he slices, an inconsistent pendulum marking time it will not see. It wiggles, almost playful, almost dancing, skin turned down like the skirts of girls on playgrounds after church. He says, please understand, I had to shoot it. And I do. The fox was wreaking havoc in the hen house, the goat pen, stealing chickens and killing kids. My father tried to be humane. Set traps, built better fences. He tried. And each dawn mocked his efforts with the awful fuss of death. I help him stretch the pelt across the rack, ribbon guts into a bucket, scrub stray blood from the floor. He tried. I know, I say, but did we have to skin it? No, he tells me. No, that's not the point. That's that one. Okay, I'll skip back to where I was now. And I will read a nice little queer poem, little queer growing up poem now. This one's called Bottom Feeder after Catfish. So exciting. I love catfish. Okay. Bottom feeder. In church, I was told I was only good for sinking. So as a child, I skipped Sunday school, brought a girl from class down with me, and we slicked our small bodies through the vent in the door to the empty daycare, sucked sweet milk bottles meant for babies, since we still were babies too. The butterfly of our hips had not yet opened. With short hair, we still looked like little boys. In the first sex dream, I remember I was alone. A penis hung useless between my adolescent legs, unwieldy, gray and hungry as a catfish. I had to feed myself. And when I woke, I knew I belonged at the bottom of some murky depth, needed a wider mouth. I still don't know whose body I belong to, mine or the ones who've been inside it or the ones I've been inside. Desire like this should be too slippery a thing to have fins as sharp as these. If you hold me by my softer parts, I'll still try to slice open your palm. Even when you love me right, I thrash. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to the last three that I was gonna do, I think. Okay. You know what? I've never read this one out loud before, so I think I'm just gonna do it. This one is one of my favorites that went through a lot of the most revision of any poem in the book, probably, but I like where it landed. I'm giving y'all all the inside scoop. Sorry, I talk a lot when I'm nervous. So, okay, so this poem is called Doves in the Ivy. 3 white-winged, oh, and you should probably know, my dad, I'm not allergic to poison ivy, but my dad is. So that's some context for you. It's earlier in the book, but I have to give the context now because you don't know it. Okay, Doves in the Ivy. 3 white-winged doves nest in the poison ivy patch my father has been asking me to cut down for weeks, since, despite my body's other failings, I have not inherited the itch. I could lie down with them, the doves, so safe they must be women, which is unfair. My father is gentle and was raised by another gentle man, though I have seen them both go wild with rage in ways my mother never has. My father is a gentle man. He gave me my first shotgun, taught me how to shoot, to kill quickly, show mercy, and only when I must. The last time he hunted for sport, before I was a thought, he shot a squirrel, which his mother stuffed and mounted in her house where it stayed collecting dust until the day she died because my father wouldn't have it in his home. Couldn't look the creature in its imitation eyes, his guilt unbecoming of a Southern man. I wanted to be a Southern man, to love a Southern woman, feel guilt for nothing. Okay. I think I'll just do I'll just do two more. I'll end on a, do I have time for three more? I want to end on a happy note, kind of.
The time is yours to use as you wish.
Okay. I also don't want to like bore people though, so I don't want to.
You're not boring us, or at least not me.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll decide as I go. I'll do it live. This is the newest poem in the book, the last one that was written for the book, and that I begged my editor to squeeze in last minute, and he was like, "This belongs in this book." So, that's exciting. It's called Against Salvation. My hair keeps getting in my mouth. Against Salvation. If beauty is a sin, give me beauty. If gluttony, a fork and knife. Let me drink the sweet water of youth's fountain while young, waste it deliciously, gulp every brief drop. No going back, no turning unless it's into a pillar of salt. If sloth, give me the luxury of convenience and a lover to decay with. Of angels and their offices, I want no part, except maybe the ones who lusted, desired more or anything other than an eternity of peace, golden palaces with pearl-laid streets. Gold bores me, peace bores me, I cannot eat a pearl. If I must confess and repent to enter paradise, I confess I don't want it. I repent of nothing. But the time spent fearing holy wrath, gold, pearls, saints, paradise sounds like it would bore me. So if heaven is a paradise, I will face God and dance backwards into hell, which can't be that much worse than Alabama. If eternal life is what I lose for loving her, give me her and the quick burn of mortality. And if mortality is a curse, oh God, I beg of you, curse me, curse me, curse me forever and ever. Amen. Okay, I'll read two more. I'll read one short little love poem that's happy, and then I will read the title poem of the book. And I think that'll be it for me. Okay, this poem is called Apiary, and it's for my partner. Apiary. The hive hangs above us like prayer in the willow, honeycomb folding like waves on a small golden pond. You tell me honeybees have hearts, but not for long, their lives bound in one turn of spring and summer. Of our own existence, you say, if fate is kind, we can expect 3 billion heartbeats before death silences the sound. Lover, I have missed so many of yours already, spent so few summers swarming in your flowers. Lover, let me hide your heart in a fist of honeybees, muffle the sound with the hum of sweet-making wings. If time can't hear the beating, maybe it'll pass you by, like bees over water, sensing nothing to take. What's that poem? Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna read the title poem now, and then I'll leave it there. Thank you all so much. This is What Good is Heaven. When my mother dreamed of children, she pictured things in bowls. Beautiful fish gracing over brightly colored stones, clear water, a bowl of her favorite fruits, ceramic overflowing pears and tangerines, blueberries fat with sweet. I have always lived in secret, loved the dark water. I have always been the rough-pocked, bitter pit of peach. I remember being born, or at least the second time, when as a child I stumbled toddling down the steep gravel road, down off the sharp shoulder into a twisting bed of briar, and saw myself split open on the thorns, witnessed what till then had only been inside. Bee balm blossoms on my arms and knees, a secret my body well kept. Even then, I tried to bury it, force self back into antonym of self. But dying is not the same as being unborn, and I have never been any good at either. Once it didn't rain for weeks, but I wanted to be a fish so badly I jumped off our pier and broke both ankles in the drought-shallow shoals, and smiled that their new angles looked like fins. Once I watched my father stripping dry rotten wood from our porch, and as he pried up the boards, a family of possums hissed like bulbous vampires at the sunlight before they lit out for the edge of the woods, babies bobbing after mother like lures on a troubled lake. Everything is always looking for some new way to disappear. After the porch was fixed, I loosened a board and crawled inside, over and over, each time pretending I was crawling to the bottom of my mother's bowl of dream fruit, something soft and pitless each time I would emerge. In the dark, even the light sliding planks were as large as black eternal sky, beams signaling heaven or the break of dark water to surface, the sun-clear water of day. Even now, I am always searching for something to crawl into, some new way to be born. What good is heaven to me anyway? What good are fish and fruit and day? I'm still the child I always have been, hidden dark beneath the porch, pretending every nail hole is a star. Thank y'all so much. I need some wine. I'm so nervous for some reason.
That's okay. This is an environment where you can enjoy your glass of wine. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. I love hearing your work out loud as well, Ray. We have a little bit of time for questions, so I will defer to the audience first. If anyone has a question, you can either drop it in the chat or you can raise your hand and ask it verbally. And if not, then I will ask a question. Go ahead, Haya.
Hi, so question slash comment. First for Tommy. I'm in the process of assembling a collection and
You froze there, Haya.
the ordering of the poems. And pick a section now. You know, I'm going to go off video. It might be better.
It's okay. I heard that you are in the process of putting together a collection and you were asking about organizing poems. Is that what you said?
The idea of the repetition of one word in a bunch of poems in a collection. And I was just curious if the word pink is something that you intentionally focused on, because that, you know, piqued my interest in hearing your work. And I just love the way it sounds. I love the color, that I was able to visualize the poem. So I was just curious about the process. You know, was that something you intentionally wanted to have repeated in the poem?
It wasn't intentional, but I do have a tendency to gravitate to certain words when I'm writing books. I'm not really sure why it happens, but I have noticed that I've had that happen pretty much any book I've written. I'm also drawn to colors, so I have a tendency to put a lot of color in a poem I'm writing.
Great, thank you. I love the use of color, so thank you.
Did you have a second question or was your hand up?
Oh, go ahead. I'll put it down.
Oh, okay. No problem. Anyone else before I ask a question? No? Okay. Well, my question is usually a craft question. And I'm curious, just generally speaking, Haya kind of alluded to the aspect of organizing a collection and having a certain color specifically appear as maybe some sort of like organizing principle. But I'm curious, I'll ask Ray first since Tommy went last, first last time. Ray, when you were this is your debut full length and a prize winning collection at that. So congratulations. I'm curious about your way of approaching the compilation of this particular collection. Was there a certain organizing principle? How did you go from your individual poems to a full-length manuscript? And were there certain pieces that you had originally put in there that maybe you took out? And you mentioned adding some later, so I'd just like to hear a little bit more about your process, and then the same with Tommy after you tell us about yours.
Yeah, so this book underwent like some really, really deep restructuring, because originally the original like 40 or so poems were my MFA thesis, and that looked very, very different. But I had a lot of help organizing that one. So I mean, I had a great thesis committee that they kind of helped me order that one. But as I kept writing poems towards it, I just couldn't figure out where they went. And this is nowhere near as cool and experimental as Tommy's experiment, but my experiment with this book that ended up sticking was putting it in sections. As I was working, just, having friends look at it, I tried to like group poems together by like different themes, or like different, like these are all my sad animal poems, these are all my sad queer poems, these are my happy poems, and I tried to like figure out how I didn't end up doing what I did the first time I started submitting this book, which was order them in that way, sort of, so that like it ended on like a happy note, or that like there was some kind of like cohesion between each section. So that it kind of sucked like that, because it was like really, really sad, and then like three like happy poems, and then it was over. What we ended up doing was kind of vaguely organizing it, which I hadn't even thought of it like this, but working with J. Bruce Fuller at Texas Review Press, we reordered it into sections, based on kind of like a coming of age narrative. So like each section gets deeper into sexuality, gets deeper into, I guess, just like gender questions. So that's sort of how it went, is like we were just like, well, what would happen if it literally just followed the trajectory of like the speaker's life? And I didn't know you were allowed to do that in a book of poems that wasn't specifically like a narrative collection, so that's what was kind of an experiment for me, and it ended up working, I think, is that I ended up structuring it almost like a prose arc instead of a poetry arc. And each of the individual sections got rearranged a million times. I tried to, I have my own like preferences for it, which is just, I love it when a poem in a book that I'm reading, like when it feels like the last line of the poem before it could be the first line of the next poem. And so I kind of tried to do that with my poems. And maybe don't go and like test me on that, because I don't really know how it ended up, but I don't know, that's sort of the long-winded answer of how that came to be for me. But didn't know I wanted sections, ended up in sections, and then I think that it's better for it. All praise to good editors, basically.
Thank you. That was very helpful and illuminating as well. Tommy, how about you? I think you're muted.
Yeah, I was. Sorry about that. It's different per side of the book. So for Ditch Laps, I wrote this a lot quicker. I wanted it to be loosely a narrative build. That's like in this pursuit of looking for an emotional escape and trying to find the best one for the narrator, or the speaker rather. And so like it goes through, like I didn't read the more experimental poems in the book, just because it's a little bit harder to translate in a reading, but I have a couple poems in the actual form of infomercials, and that kind of breaks up how the escapes might look besides just being on TikTok and scrolling on a phone per se. But it definitely kind of builds off that narrative. Whereas with Really Afraid, I sectioned it up. And so each section is like a different, trying to, it's a different way of trying to understand the origins of trauma. And in the first section, it's a series of one-act plays. So it's in the form of plays, and it explores it that way. The second section is in the form of a quiz. So every poem is a question with answers, so to speak. And then the third section is inspired by Adult Swim bumpers. And the last section is kind of, I like to view it as it's kind of like an epilogue because each poem is different. So instead of being very formatted and structured in the section, everything is a little bit off. So like the first poem is really long, it's 4 pages. The second one is in like silent film title cards, and the next one is a computer form. So they're all just very different, and it's kind of like that trying to capture the how it feels to try to re-understand yourself through therapy and through trauma work, and recontextualize your life as it is through the lens of trauma. So that's kind of where that one was, but Really Afraid used to be a different manuscript at some point. So it was a work in progress for a bit. But that's what I had on those books. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. We have a question in the chat here. I'd love to hear from both of you about the process for choosing presses to send your collections to, or to submit your collections to, excuse me. If you're comfortable answering that question, we'll start with you, Raye.
Sorry, I muted it for a second, so my cat was yelling. Yeah, no, I will happily act as a cautionary tale of what not to do, because I ended up in a great place, but I sort of, right after my MFA, fell prey to this, like, you have to have a book out before you're 30 or like you're a failure, like, thing that I think gets not, I don't think it's the MFA's fault, but I think that's something that gets pushed in MFAs because you're all like younger during it, or most people are younger during it. And so it's just, you see all your friends like when they're like 27, like putting like this, award-winning book out. And so I thought that's what I had to do. And I submitted everywhere without thought, without consideration. I spent hundreds of dollars that I did not have as a grad student. So I will say that don't do that. Absolutely do your research first, because when I started actually researching presses, that like thinking about like, okay, who are the presses not only that I love their books, but also that have books that are in conversation with my book, and like what are the themes, that are playing out. What are some newer presses? Because I love a new press. I love a small press. I think that you and Tommy can probably speak to this as well. You get a lot more room to play with smaller presses, in a way that I think you don't with like the big ones, the big five, or I guess whatever. Does poetry have a big five? I don't know.
Yes.
But yeah, no. So I went from indiscriminately submitting and spending all of my money, to actually thinking about what, like doing like a lot of research, like reading a lot of books from presses that I really admired. My book is like very, very place based. And so I started looking into presses that one were, very Southern or place based. But not just that, but places that had like, that valued like regional ties and like valued like specific knowledges like this, because some presses are just not gonna be into that. They want something that's a little more universal, and that's fine. But I really ended up the final year that I was submitting it, I was really intentional about where I was submitting it, and I only looked at like, okay, these are either Southern presses, so I know these people will understand what's happening in my book even if they don't publish it, or these are presses that have published work that I see my book in conversation with. And once I started doing that, I got like 15 or 20 finalist nods, and then finally got this Texas Review Press one, which was like, I think for me, the perfect press for this book. And sometimes you don't know that until after you land there, and you realize like, wow, I really shouldn't have been submitting to a Copper Canyon Press a million times and waiting 2 years between every reading period for them to say, we don't want the full collection. I should have just like gone with my gut first, and gone with things like that.
Thank you.
First. So that's sort of my cautionary tale of what not to do.
That's a good one and a wise one. I think a lot of people fall into that trap of just kind of like treating it like throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks, which, you
Yeah.
end up wasting so much money and time by doing that rather than more of a targeted and a realistic as well, pitch,
Right.
like we have to, I don't want that to sound pejorative, but I think, kind of just knowing like where things are going to land is very important too. Tell me,
Right.
what about you?
So for this book, it was kind of very immediate. I knew I wanted to send it to Querencia Press because the original version of Really Afraid used to be so let me try to rephrase this because it's going to sound a little bit messy. It kind of was a messy manuscript because it used to be part of a chapbook that I had published with Querencia Press. And that chapbook used to be a full-length collection that had a couple of the sections in Really Afraid, but I realized that it was two different books. So I kind of split the one section off that became Taser Edged, Watch Out with Querencia, and I shelved the rest for later. And then once I finished that second manuscript, which ended up being Really Afraid, and then I wrote more, which was Ditch Labs, and it became kind of a different book on its own. I just felt like I wanted to try to send it to Querencia again since it felt fitting, with how Taser Edged ended up being how it was and Really Afraid. But otherwise, I do really look for a press that wants to work with their writers and wants to promote them in any way they can, and also has a really strong mission statement for specifically queer authors, and that's what I generally look for since a lot of my work does fall under that umbrella. I also look for publishers that specialize in like publishing books about trauma. And Querencia Press definitely has quite a few titles under their belt in the same vein, so it felt like an even better fit.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, well, it looks like we're right almost at 8 o'clock here. So I will end here and I will say that we'll be doing the next Be Well reading on, let me pull up my calendar because I don't want to say it wrong. October the 3rd is the first Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. And we're going to do a focus on Latinx poetry. I'll be announcing those readers soon on social media. I'm firming up the 3rd right now. So that's why I'm not trying to be cryptic. I'm just working out the 3rd reader. But that will come out soon. And I really appreciate all of you being here and sharing the space again tonight. Thank you for reading, Tommy and Ray. It was a pleasure to have you. I'll download this recording and I will post it on social media, and you can share it with anyone you also want to have hear this beautiful reading who wasn't able to join us live today. So everyone, thank you again so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. Take care, be well, and have a great evening.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
It's my
Thank you
pleasure.
so much.
Take care.